You need one of those magic mirrors. I see Tom and I see Liz and I see Linda.
I'm waiting for Liz and James. I haven't seen them for a minute.
I'm here.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. There you are. Yes, you're there. So Chris, whenever you want me to start. Okay.
Please begin.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So glad you could virtually make it. Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Hearing none. We'll move on to staff reports. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody should have received a staff report from the fire department, from Road Superintendent McGinnis, from Chris Croskery Hodgins, Treasurer Deputy Clerk, and from John Paul Negrinotti, Planning Assistant Economic Development Coordinator and CEMC. Thanks, John Paul, for putting that all down. Does anybody have any questions, with the exception of Dan? I think the rest of us are close enough to a phone that we could answer them. If anybody has any questions about any of the staff reports. And then yours next.
So there's a meeting coming up Thursday for the landfill with the engineers. Did I read that right?
Chris?
Yes.
Yes, there is. They're coming back up. And they've gone over the landfill once already. And they are coming back up, correct?
Okay. Is it a meeting for us to attend or is it just for staff?
Nope, just Dan, Lisa, and the engineer and surveyor.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, in that case, we'll move on. Charles has his staff report and it will be verbal. So I'll turn it over to Charles.
Thank you, Mayor Piper. We've received a notice from the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. They sent us a COVID-19 update and that the measures that affect all our cemeteries, provincial gathering restrictions apply. So we'll be posting our cemetery restrictions on our webpage and signs will be placed at all 3 cemeteries. Even though funeral homes can have up to 10 people, the gathering restrictions of a maximum of 5 people apply to the cemeteries. The municipality of Calgary has passed a resolution to support the appointment of Mayor Peter McIsaac to the local DSAB. Since our last meeting, we met electronically with our planners to do a final review of the wording of our new zoning bylaw and also some housekeeping changes. And that's my staff report.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to committee reports and we'll start with Councillor Moore.
Nothing from me. We do have a library meeting board on May the 25th. I would imagine it's going to be in this format. And I think there's some correspondence from the library that we'll be going over. It's just basically describing what they've been doing with their time in the library. And as far as what's going on with the support from Chisholm, I think you and I discussed that, Mayor Piper, and I guess they haven't made a decision yet. So that's all I have.
Good, thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Marchant?
I had one meeting with the planning board. It was a business meeting. We didn't hear any applications. It's concerning the June meeting. We've already canceled a couple. And we're going to see if the government doesn't relax the rules by June. We're going to try a virtual meeting in June to get some of the consents. My biggest concern was that summer is going to be coming soon, and if people are held up too long for building or that, if there's applications for that type of thing. So we're having another virtual meeting or a teleconference. We don't do it on Zoom. I talked to them, told them about our success with the meeting last time, and hopefully June, maybe we'll try it. But May 21st, we're having another meeting to decide what to do when we get further direction from the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
As I'm no longer on the DSAB, I don't have a report from there. And of course, we haven't had a museum meeting either. So I don't have a committee meeting report, but I am now assigned to the Rural and Northern Tourism Advisory Committee for the government for the release of COVID-19. So that there's not a lot I can discuss about it because it's all held confidential, of course, except that the final draft, the final report needs to be submitted to the government of Ontario by May 24th. And what it actually has divided it into 15 sectors of industry. And everybody has to kind of come up with this plan on how we can, sort of open up the restrictions again. So it's interesting that I got selected for it. And once I'm able to, I'll be able to give more updates, but it's really in the very initial planning phases. It will go very quickly. So I will keep probably the mayor and Charles updated as things can be released once they start to be released.
I appreciate that. So because it's May 24th, we're safe to assume that everything's still locked down for the long weekend.
I wouldn't disagree with that. However, even some of the things, we had our first meeting yesterday, and some of the things we talked about yesterday, I already saw on the news today. So it's, I mean, as Charles, as everybody in the office knows, this COVID-19 thing it changes daily and maybe even hourly. So I don't know that I would bank on it that much. Our draft has to be in by May 14th. So maybe they're pulling stuff out of the draft in advance. They're getting a lot of pressure. So they're making us move very fast.
Good, well, thank you. I appreciate that update and hope to have plenty more as it goes along.
Yep, I'll keep you updated as much as I can as it moves. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Scott.
I don't have any meetings or anything as of late, so I'm good.
Okay. There aren't a lot of meetings, I must admit. So I will just complete the committee reports. As Councillor Moore pointed out, I wrote a letter to Chisholm asking them to reconsider their decision to pull out of the library. It was considered at last Tuesday's Chisholm Council meeting, but no decision was made. There was only discussion. So I guess we wait and see what they have to say about that. On the Sturgeon Nipissing French Water Advisory Committee, we've had our second meeting. We had it on Wednesday. That was prior to the rainfall event that we had last Thursday. There's no rainstorms now, they're all events. They forecasted that we would get 25 to 50 millimeters, and we got 20. There were some concerns over low water levels, as the lake has only increased 3 centimeters over the last 9 days. And with the previous rainfall in April, we were at 30 to 50% of average. Now, with the rainfall we received and the closing of the Little Chaudière Dam, the lake has risen 15 centimeters in the last 4 days. And it's predicted that with the snow melt in the north, the lake will rise 15 more centimeters in the next week. But the lake is still below normal. They're still preaching patience as spring continues. And finally, East Home. East Home meeting was right after ours. Jim Coleman has been returned as chairperson, pardon me. There's still no active cases of COVID-19 at East Home, despite an increase in testing. And to be considered an outbreak, there only has to be one patient with any of the symptoms until test results are confirmed. The annual general meeting must happen within 90 days of its original date. So we've got 2 more months. East Home, like every place else, PPE is still in short supply. Nipissing University and Canada College donated gowns, gloves, and goggles. People are coming out of isolation since their transfer from the hospital, which will save PPE. And Au Chateau and Sturgeon donated 100 fabric gowns, and we have the facilities to clean them. The hospital wouldn't take them because they don't have washing facilities, so we did gladly. The whole isolation COVID situation is changing many things at East Home. The chief coroner now has an order that if a person becomes deceased, they must be removed from the premises in 3 hours, which meant nothing to me until I realized that we have people from all over the province, and having somebody there within 3 hours, very difficult. So Richard Paul gets the call. So if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you have till 4 to exit the premises. East Home has upgraded their website, so more info can be found there on a daily basis. And Steve Pekarski has been named interim administrator he'll take over as of May 20th. And interviews for the administrator's position will begin when COVID restrictions are relaxed. They came up with a short list, but no interviews till we can do it in person. And their next meeting is May 20th. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go back to the agenda. We'll go to number 4. And number 4 is resolution R 2020-94, and that the minutes of the meeting held be adopted as published. I need a mover, please.
More.
Thank you. And a seconder.
James,
Okay. So number R 2020-94, moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Scott, that the minutes of the meeting held April 21st, 2020 be adopted as published. In for or against? For Scott,
for,
Moore,
Or,
Marchant,
For,
Anderson,
4,
and myself 4. Carried. We'll move on to, I just put that on top of my agenda. Number 5, support Bell application to CRTC. There's a draft. I'll read the real one, right? Okay, so number R 2020-95, I'll read it first. That we support Bell in their application to the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission Broadband Fund to assist in providing broadband internet access services in eligible underserved areas across Canada. So I need a mover for that.
Tom,
Anderson,
Okay, I'll give Councillor Marchant moved and seconded by Councillor Anderson. Any comments or questions? Okay. For or against, Scott,
4,
Moore,
4,
Marchant,
or
Anderson,
4,
Piper, 4. Okay, we'll move on to number 6. With number 6, I have a letter to read because we deferred the donation for the Gurdon Area Historical Corporation. And because they can't be here in person, they've sent a letter. It's not too lengthy, but I shall read it. It says, thank you for sending your message. Yes, the Commanda Museum plans to open as soon as the provincial government allows. In the meanwhile, our operating expenses continued to be payable while our ability to fundraise is completely halted. So the township support is definitely needed to help with this. We've been working very diligently this last year to complete many necessary building improvements. We have come a long way and still have lots to do. The summer of 2020 is very critical to the efforts many volunteers have been working towards. If we are lucky, the CSJ program will supply us funding for 2 students to help with many tasks. Regardless of the provincial mandate, the students would be hired. Appropriate COVID-19 health and safety requirements will be implemented to protect the safety of anyone on the grounds or in the building. We are supplied with information about these protocols by the Ontario Museum Association and the provincial government. To open the museum, we will need to invest in appropriate sanitation and PPE supplies for volunteers, students, and visitors. This summer, the Ontario Trillium Foundation will be working with the museum board to plan a media event to promote the completion of the building improvement project. The museum board will also continue to discuss a community fundraising event or program to generate funds. Any social gatherings, if and when they become possible, will need to be well planned to ensure COVID-19 protocols are adhered to in accordance with provincial guidelines. The assistance of Nipissing Township has always been essential to our planning. It adds significantly to the museum's ability to support the people in our community and tourists alike over the summer. Also, your support contributes to the building's winter expenses. In 2020, it is even more important. Thanks again for adding our request to this week's agenda, and it was signed sincerely, Jamie Board. So, as far as this goes, it says we authorize a donation of blank to the Gurdon Area Historical Corporation for use in the 2020 season. This would be the time to discuss. Now, I do believe their season is going to be shorter than normal, but at the same time, you probably still have the same amount of expenses. I think, as we've all found out, that they don't go away, but our chance to make money does. So I'll open the floor to anyone that would like to suggest a number or what we should do on this regard.
I'll speak first, Mayor Piper. I've given this a lot of thought, and a lot of the things that I thought about, she has included in her letter. And I'm going to suggest that we give them the $2,000 as usual this year again. It is going to be a short season, and I agree it'll be tough for them to raise a lot of money. We do have a lot of our Nipissing Township residents that volunteer there. So I'm going to suggest the $2,000 as we have in the past. If we want to look at it again next year, but I think this year it'll be important for them to have that.
Does anyone else want to comment?
Yes, I appreciate that, Liz. This museum means a lot to the people for July 1st and August 1st, or civic weekend. A lot of the people have been there. I attend each time, and it's a good time for the people. And also, it's surprising the number of people go and look at the exhibits and partake of the delicious pies and sausages. I know the fire department has barbecued the sausages for many times for them, and appreciate it. The other thing is the people there have worked hard, and not many of them can, or do travel up to Nipissing for the July 1st. It is a bit of a distance. And I think we should go with what Liz had said.
Any other comments? Because if not, we can make those two movers and seconded. Is this number 96?
96.
Thanks. So I'm going to say moved by Councillor Moore. Seconded by Councillor Marchant. I agree, this is a difficult year. It's going to be difficult for a lot of people, and we may want to revisit this later on. For or against, Councillor Scott?
I'll go for, but somehow in the letter has to say that it's not a guaranteed for next year.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Councillor
Thank you.
Moore?
Or
Councillor Marchant?
Or
Councillor Anderson?
Or,
And I will make it unanimous. This is a summer of discontent. That was Paris in the summertime. So we'll
Is that
move
another
on
movie?
to resolution number 7, Nipissing Township Museum 2020 season operation. Do we have any comment from the museum board before we look at what we're going to do or what is suggested we can do?
no, we're just waiting to see what we can do. Like, can we finish the construction in the front? There's painting to be done. When can we start moving on some of that stuff?
Okay.
Did we not get an email the other day saying that municipal infrastructures can start going ahead?
Yes, that's right, Councillor Scott. And I believe that it's the plan to have our Ralph do some of that yard work. Dan isn't here tonight, but I know that there's work to be done at the cemetery and there's work to be done at the museum, and those are our next two priority areas to get working at them.
Charles, what about the contractor, the walkway? Will he be doing that, or have you contacted him?
I don't think we've approved that yet.
Okay,
We got the quote.
yes, and I
like we-
think you were going to talk to him about the quote and then
Yeah.
come back, but I haven't heard anything yet.
That's all. And we do have the quote. I have it in the other room. I'll just go get it, okay?
Okay.
Would it be safe to, I'm looking at draft proposals here. And the one suggestion is that the actual opening of the Nipissing Museum is postponed for the month of May. Does that make any sense?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Okay. With the quote on that, in some discussion today, it was suggested that perhaps Ralph could do the interlocking. No?
oh, yes, we would agree to that.
Oh, he can do the fixing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have to talk quieter because we'll get reverberation here between, we are 6 feet apart, but, so maybe we should have a resolution to, accept the quote for so Mr. Young can complete the other work. 'Cause I think he could work there by himself. And do the
What
other
was
work.
the quote? What was the quote, Charles? I think the discussion at our last meeting was that, when we discussed this, was that it was a little different from what he had originally quoted.
Yes, it was. We had, I can give you the details, like the interlocking brick was $1,500. The
Yes,
brick edge was $80. The stone dust was $300. The plate packer rental was $360. His labor was $3,000 for a subtotal of $5,240 plus tax, which would bring it to $5,921.20.
is that the quote he gave us originally?
Prior to that, we
It
had
seems high to me. It seems
just
high.
the cost of the brick. He said he'd got a deal on the brick of $1,500. And we didn't really have the price for installation.
Oh,
Wasn't that walkway part
Oh,
of the
okay,
original
okay,
quote?
sorry. And then he talked about $3,000 for a total of $4,500. As that was back in like last year, but nothing in writing. But at the one meeting, we asked to get an actual quote in writing, and when the actual quote came in, there's a few extra things, like the packer, I guess, that wasn't marked on it, and the extra brick edge and the stone dust.
Charles, wasn't
Yes,
the walkway a part of the original quote when we did that?
It was, but I believe we added extra. Remember, we took that off and added in the new door and the windows
Oh, right, yes,
That's correct.
absolutely.
to change
Yeah.
it.
Okay, yep,
So now this is a kind of a new project.
right.
Roughly how many square feet, Charles? Ballpark?
I don't know.
Okay. Cause how many ton of screenings did he say?
He's had $1,500 worth of interlocking stones. I don't know how many are in a skillet. It's piled there in the yard. It's been sitting there since last summer.
Okay.
But
Right.
we'll probably have another council meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, should we get another quote since we already have the stone there? Should we get another quote maybe?
Well, we didn't pay for the stone yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who owns the stone?
He owns the stones.
Yeah.
That's part of this quote. $1,500 is for the interlocking brick. And we still have our stones there.
Yeah. Would it hurt to get another quote if we measured it off from somebody else, just to make sure that this price is like that it's a good price?
Yeah. We can do
I'd
that.
like to, okay,
And we
that's
could
what I would do. to
Try and
make
get
sure
it for the next council. Try and get it for the next council meeting.
That would be, yes, okay.
Yes, Chris has made a note there. I could see she's making notes. Electronically.
So do you just want to go with this?
So we're going to postpone the opening.
Have we talked to the curator about the start date
for her?
Hey, I didn't hear any of that, Charles. That was really echoey.
The curator's
start date?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know why.
I'll say it. I'll say it.
Your start date.
Okay, Charles just wondered if anybody had talked to the curator about her start date.
Yes, I have. And as we discussed earlier, we can't open as of yet. So there is no start date.
So right now, we'll just say the start has been postponed till at
Till we
least
get
the
word- till we
till the
get word
1st
from
of
the
June.
government. Yeah, we could do that. Yes.
Or do you want to say until restrictions are lifted, whatever comes first?
Whatever comes first.
Okay,
This is a sample resolution to postpone it till May.
could we say for the month of May or until restrictions are lifted? Okay,
Now, Charles, can we go ahead? If you get another quote, let's suppose early next week, and it's pretty comparable to his, do we have to wait for the next council meeting to give him the go ahead, or can you just call him? Can we work that out tonight?
I think we have to go ahead because we won't have a resolution
Okay,
saying go ahead.
all right. I'm just worried about how long it may take him to actually get at it.
Well, hopefully, I don't think they're doing too much, so I'm hoping that if we're close, and we're looking at just being close, right? The two
Right.
quotes? Okay,
Yes, yeah,
okay,
just to make
Yeah.
sure it's a competitive quote.
right. It will be difficult to get one, I'm sure, but I mean, there are a few block layers around that you could say, just ask them, how much would this cost? Just to make
Right.
sure that you're getting full value for your money.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll move on to, we'll complete this. Now it's going to say that in response to the provincial emergency health declaration, we postpone the opening of the Nipissing Township Museum for the month of May or until restrictions are lifted. So hopefully that's before the end of May, I'm praying. So could I have a mover for that?
I can move it, Linda.
Oh. So, and of course, then we defer the starting date of staff and students for the month of May.
correct.
Okay. So I'm sorry, who moved that?
Linda?
Okay. And
Moore.
seconded? Thank you.
More,
So number R 2020-97, moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Moore, that in response to the provincial emergency health declaration, we postpone the opening of the Nipissing Township Museum for the month of May or until restrictions are lifted, and that we defer the starting date of staff and student for the month of May. All in favor or against? Scott,
For,
Moore,
For,
Marchant,
For,
Anderson,
For,
Piper, 4. Okay, everybody has seen the correspondence? I hope. Anybody not seen the correspondence? Okay, having said that, number 98. Okay, all it was the AMO launch, Wausau District Union Public Library status, municipality of calendar, letter to the Minister of Transportation regarding paving the shoulder on Highway 94, and the Township of Armour in regards to high-speed internet connectivity in rural Ontario. And we have already supported connectivity, and we'll look at Highway 94, but if anybody is aware, Highway 94 isn't in Nipissing Township. So I need a mover and a seconder to accept the correspondence. So moved by,
James,
okay, seconded by,
Tom,
thank you. I'll read that again. Number R 2020-98, moved by Councillor Scott, moved by Councillor, seconded by Councillor Marchant, that we accept the correspondence as presented. All in favor or against? Scott,
for,
Moore,
For,
Marchant,
For,
Anderson,
For,
and I am for. Okay, we're down to number 9, accounts to pay. These are the statement of accounts dated April 30th and May 2nd and 4th, 2020, totaling $105,849.02. I need a mover and a seconder, please.
Moore,
Thank you.
Anderson,
Seconded by,
Anderson,
thank you. I would have got it. The number R 2020-99, moved by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the statement of accounts dated April 30th, May 2nd and 4th, 2020, totaling $105,849.02 be approved. For or against? Scott,
for,
Moore,
For,
Marchant,
For,
Anderson,
For,
and I am for as well. Okay. This is number 100 for 2020, and it's to confirm the proceedings of council. I need a mover.
Tom,
Thank you. And a seconder.
James,
Thank you. So number R 2020-100, moved by Councillor Marchant, seconded by Councillor Scott, that we pass bylaw number 2020-23 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on May 5th, 2020, read the first, second, and third time, and passed this 5th day of May 2020. For or against, Scott,
For,
Moore,
For.
Marchant,
or,
Anderson,
For.
and I am for. Which brings us to. Got her. Number 101. Okay. R2101. Moved by
Anderson.
Moore.
Okay. Anderson and Moore. So number R 2020-101, moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Moore, that the meeting be adjourned at 7:11 p.m. Next regular meeting to be held May 19th, 2020. For or against, Scott,
for,
Moore,
For.
Marchant,
or,
Anderson,
For.
and I am all for it. I'll be back in Nipissing next time if anybody needs a ride. If you're back, otherwise, the meeting's adjourned, and I'd like to thank everybody for their patience. And we'll probably talk in the next 2 weeks. If this is working for you, we'll continue. If not, an alternative would be in person, but in a location where we could all stay 6 feet apart and just see each other in person, not virtually. So we can chat about that later on. Thank you all for coming tonight, and have a great evening and a better week, and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
thank you.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.